Recording in progress.
Councilman Escobar, is this you, the iPhone?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to promote you right now.
Okay.
He's online. Okay. All right. Good evening. It is Verizon time says it's 6 o'clock, so I am going to call the committee of the whole meeting to order. A couple things, please mute or silence your cell phone. Make sure I'm. All right, Jennifer, would you read the first item, please?
Number 9, ordinance third reading, appropriating monies for the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming for the various purposes in conducting the municipal government of said city and fixing the amount of general and special taxes as part of the revenue required to meet the said appropriation. All for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026.
Okay, I think we've already had a staff report on this, but Mayor or Robin, do you have anything you care to add?
Mr. President, members of the Committee of the Whole, just a couple things. We started off with a $74,417,876 budget. The governing bodies made two amendments that were passed. One for $100,000 that would go to our police department to support the city council goal of slowing down traffic and quieting those noisy vehicles. I can report that in the month of May, the police department made 1,996 traffic stops. So they're taking your direction seriously and getting out there on the streets and making stops. The second amendment that you passed was a total of $7,894 to increase the payroll line item for the city council. And there's no other changes, sir. We stand for any questions you might have.
Does council have any questions for the administration? Seeing none, is there any public input? Any public input? Then may I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve on third and final reading.
Second.
Okay, the motion is made by Councilman Roybal, seconded by Councilman Seagrave to recommend approval on third reading. Discussion from the committee.
Mr. President,
Councilman Seagrave.
I would offer an amendment.
Yes.
I move to amend the fiscal year 2026 budget ordinance to add $10,000 to the City Council Department temporary part-time line item and $977 to applicable benefit line items for a total of $10,977. I also move to deduct $6,900 from the miscellaneous department insurance line item and $4,077 from the miscellaneous department general discretionary line item for a total of $10,977.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Mr. President,
Councilman Seagrave.
this amendment is to allow for a summer temporary part-time employee in the city council office. That's the intent of it. Thank you.
Mr. President, can I
Yes.
just elaborate a little bit on that? It actually will be for the whole year. So we have budgeted for the whole year for a second person in the city council office. Currently, we have hired somebody through August.
Thank you. And this is for an intern within the council office, if I understand it.
That is correct.
I apologize for the timing. I thought it was just the summer.
No worries. All right. Any further discussion on this amendment? Discussion? Discussion on the amendment. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
The budget is amended. Further discussion? Discussion? Any further discussion? Councilman Moody?
Thank you, Mr. President, through
I
you.
just got under the wire. I was about to.
I would like to make an amendment. It will be on the planning department. Let's let me get the page number. And I'll explain before I make the official amendment.
He's looking for the page.
So on page 171, that's where I'll make it, so that way everybody's there on the same page. And I move to, from professional services line item, remove $150,000 from the $250,000, leaving $100,000, and I move that $150,000 to the general miscellaneous fund. So that is my motion. My motion is to amend the Planning Development Division, professional services line item, $250,000, amend it down to $100,000, and we'll put $150,000 in the general miscellaneous fund, and that is the motion.
Is there a second?
I would second for the sake of discussion.
Second by Councilwoman Aldridge. Discussion. Councilman Moody?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. The reason I'm doing this is because, again, you know, we do need the money next year for our, to fund our fire and police, so that way the money will be there. And also, too, we were told that it's required for the transportation for the federal aspect, though I was told also, too, it's through the MPU. But again, I would say that we only need to have $100,000 there. So that's why I am moving $150,000 in a general miscellaneous fund, so that way we'll have it there saved.
Any further? Thank you. Councilman Roybal?
Mr. Chairman, through you, to the sponsor of the amendment, have you had any discussions with the chairman or the department heads or the mayor's office about where you're cutting these funds from or why?
I have not.
Councilman Roybal, anything else?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Emmons?
Mr. President, through you, has the sponsor gotten any information as to what the actual cost could be?
Councilman Moody?
I did not.
Further discussion on the amendment? Discussion?
Yes.
Councilwoman Aldridge?
President Rennie, through you, I understand my colleague's desire to reduce this line item. I am frustrated by the amount of money we spend on studies, and many of them which collect dust and never actually are put into operation. I also understand the need for a study for transportation. I also am not overly pleased that, you know, this is going to update a 2014 character plan, according to our planning director, which I really believe is reflective of an unfunded mandate by our state legislative leaders. But I don't know that cutting $150,000 just to put it back into the general reserve is prudent at this point in time. So without further investigation and conversation with the planning director and seeing what we absolutely have to have and what the actual cost might be. So for that reason, I will be a no vote on the amendment.
Councilman Laybourne?
Thank you, Mr. President. Is the planning director, doesn't seem to be here in person. Is he online?
Yes, he is. Director
Mr.
Bloom,
President.
are you?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, I'm here. Unfortunately, I had to be out of town this week, but I'm here, and I believe Mr. Lloyd is also there in the audience, senior planner, that can also answer any additional questions.
Councilman Laybourne, I assume you have a question for them?
Well, I think that probably Mr. Bloom believes that these expenditures are justified. Could he explain why?
Director Bloom?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council. At the last committee of the whole, we had a little bit of discussion regarding the need to update this. Again, if a city wants to adopt any type of zoning for their community, they're required to have a comprehensive plan. And this is one of those elements. Right now, those plans do range in cost. Right now, we had budgeted the $235,000, which we do believe is relatively accurate in securing services to update this community plan. The community plan is not a plan that sits on the shelf. It is the one that establishes our land use plan, and it's imperative that we keep it up to date. Every planning and development staff report that you see references this plan. It uses those terms such as activity centers, land use plan, mixed use business, urban residential. It talks about our neighborhoods and our community. So it's definitely not one that sits on the shelf. But as we've reached out to different consultants throughout the region, a lot of them have indicated anywhere between 200 and 225, 235,000. Those are numbers that it could take to update this plan. A lot of that cost does come as a result of community outreach. So the less community outreach we would do, the lesser cost the plan would have. We would prefer to really make sure the community is involved and would strive to have a lot of community outreach.
Thank you, Director. Councilman Laybourne, anything else? Okay. Further questions? Further discussion on the amendment? Discussion? Discussion? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
The amendment is defeated. Further discussion on the budget ordinance? Discussion? Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending to the governing body approval on third reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
No.
The noes are Aldrich and Moody. The recommendation for Monday night will be to approve. Next item, please.
Number 28I, Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Cheyenne and the Cheyenne Downtown Development Authority for professional and administrative services for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th of 2026.
Is there a staff report on this item? I see DDA Director Mays heading towards the podium.
Good evening. I apologize. This has been quite a busy couple of weeks for me. I am down a staff member now as of yesterday, and I would like to present this MOU as a for the fiscal year of 2026. We had the DDA board approve. I apologize. I was not expecting the budget item to go so quickly.
We weren't sure of that either.
All righty. Yes, so with this MOU, it is reflective of the MOU that was signed prior to.
Sophia, can you speak a little closer to the mic?
Oh, yes, of course. The fiscal year 26 City DDA Work Program MOU is based off of the previous MOU between the city and the DDA signed in 2023. There are some significant changes in there, mostly in relation to the city's or the perception of the city's influence of the DDA and its operations. It focuses on the planning and development department having more of a support role, providing personnel and administrative support, and hiring support as well, but in no way directing any of the staff on DDA programs or operations. It also focuses on creating a little bit more not separation, but on restricting or limiting the dependency on the city treasurer's department, really focusing on the DDA staff doing more of the accounting, more of the day-to-day operations, and city treasurer doing more of the review component. We will also be leaning on the city attorney's office, but that will also be pretty minimal in function. Very much so, being mindful of the city departments and staff's time. The other component of this MOU is that it is only for one fiscal year. So this, looking at City Code 2.76, the Downtown Development Authority, there's a section there that states that the city and the DDA may form a work program MOU, which will only be valid for one fiscal year. We have done a little bit of analysis for what would be the next best move. I know there's been a lot of downtown stakeholder input about moving out of the city, potentially being more of an independent entity, and because of the perception that there is too much city influence on the DDA. So we did a bit of analysis, but to be completely frank, there has not been a lot of time to do thorough analysis for the long-term strategy of the DDA. I've been in this position. Yesterday marked my 3rd month, and it has been a windfall. So one major component of this MOU is that it is for one fiscal year, and we're asking for that because we really do believe that one fiscal year will be enough time for us to do the proper outreach to the downtown stakeholders and city stakeholders, as well as other people who are influenced by this MOU, and formulate a viable long-term strategy for the progress of the DDA. We know from the history it's been in the city, out of the city. There's been different variations of this MOU and the support throughout the years since 1984. There has been some comments that it worked better out of the city, many that it has worked better with city support at the least. We wanted to evaluate a couple of different scenarios remaining in City Hall with city support, which is what we are currently doing now. Relocating to a city-owned facility in more of the downtown core, closer to the downtown property owners, or be completely separate as we were before this 2023 MOU and moving to a leased downtown office space. Almost full independence. We are a municipal board, so we will never be fully independent, and we're trying to correct that perception downtown that we're a development authority and not an event planning organization. So our recommendation at this point in time and for this fiscal year is to remain in City Hall with the intent of moving downtown either within the fiscal year or after the fiscal year. We do recognize it is important for us to be downtown and to see our stakeholders more often. But as you can probably tell from my presentation here, and I apologize profusely for being a little disorganized, that we need a little bit more time to be stabilized. As I said, we are down a full-time staff member now, and we're trying to look at how we can restaff, either filling that position or breaking it up into a couple of different ones to better move forward with our priorities, as well as working on that outreach and building those systems and processes. For instance, the grant programs, we are looking at redoing our parameters or tightening them up so that they're easy to understand for the applicant, easy to apply for, and we can start pushing those out. And getting more of that funding out to help our property owners downtown. We're also looking at, for another example, is the planter program. It seems over the years, we have done it more annually, putting out the RFP, getting a new contractor, a new vendor every single year. And our intention is to have that be more of an annual contract. So it'll be a maintenance program throughout the year. I intend on trying to work with city engineering and planning to have some more solutions where we can have perennials. And so we can have those colors coming back sooner before we're able to plant annuals. And those are just some examples of the types of systems and processes that I'm hoping to have some stability to create, get really stable, and then be able to move out into a more independent and public-facing space. The DDA board approved an MOU at the previous meeting, in the May meeting on May 15th. There were some changes because they approved the draft per the city attorney's stamp. So the stamped version before you, what is the most recent version? I stand for questions.
Any questions for our DDA director?
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Aldrich.
President Rennie, through you. First, I'd like to just ask, you talked about three different varieties, or three different approaches that you're looking at. One which would keep DDA in-house here at City Hall. One which would put you in the downtown area closer to the DDA merchants and stakeholders, and still with city assistance. And then one that would be completely out on your own. Is that analysis being done by yourself, by the board, and do you believe that you can be independently unbiased, considering that you're a city employee?
Director.
Yes, President. I apologize, is it President or Chair for the council? Chair.
Do you have an answer to Councilwoman's question?
Yes, Chair,
Okay,
through
go
you
ahead.
to Councilman Aldrich. I do have a bias, absolutely. I tried not to. What we did for the analysis for the staff meeting was I took board member feedback. We had a sentiment survey that went out to all of our property owners through a postcard with the newsletter, which had the survey link on there, and we encouraged people to fill out that survey. We also did an email to our 1,600 person subscriber list. We put posts on social media, and we spent a little bit of time also going to business owners and whatnot downtown as well, and making face-to-face contact. So taking a lot of that feedback and condensing it with the board member feedback and condensing it, and as well as staff feedback, because we are directly affected by it as well. It seemed that there were, and I have the analysis here with me, there were mixed feedback, and to be honest, the feedback for specifically the DDA, there was a lot more on just downtown in general, but for the DDA itself, there was maybe 8 or 9 responses. And so I believe that those are responses that we have heard at previous board meetings from certain individuals, and I did take that into consideration. I attempted to be objective, and with this pros and cons list, and I can pass this to you if you'd like, with this pros and cons list. But it is true. At this point, I am fairly biased because it will directly affect my day-to-day. And I've spoken with these stakeholders several times, and I recognize their concerns, and I agree with them that we should be downtown. I do. Knowing what I know now, from the past 3 months, and how much it does need to be stabilized, I have a lot of concerns with being fully independent or moving downtown at this point in time. I do feel that knowing the operations and everything that needs to be done, I feel confident that within a fiscal year, we would be a lot better suited to do that. And that is my professional opinion, but yes, it is biased.
Councilwoman?
President Rennie, through you, how many respondents did you have to the survey total? Not just to that question.
Yes, President Rennie, through you to Councilwoman Aldrich, I apologize. We had 112 respondents to that survey. As of the analysis that I did on May 15th, there were 90. For the DDA component, as I just said, there were closer to 8 or 9 specific to those questions.
Go ahead.
Question, Councilman Rennie. Would you agree that while hopefully the city's interests align with the DDA's, that there may be times where the city's interests come into conflict with what might be in the best interest for the DDA?
Director Mays.
President Rennie, through you. I do have to correct you. It's administrator, I'm not the director. To Councilwoman Aldrich, I am not sure about that, to be completely honest. It seems what I've heard from the stakeholders is that we should be operating like an independent organization because we should be getting stakeholder input and taking that feedback. But that's also what the city should be doing as well, which is why I've been working hard to get the communication or the engagement platform up. We should be taking taxpayer input in a lot of the projects that we do. In terms of either conflict of interest or misalignment of priorities, the DDA, it seems, it's a municipal board created by the governing body to help develop and help downtown thrive. I don't believe that the goals are misaligned or competing because when downtown does well, the entire city does well. If we are misaligned or if we are butting heads, I know, such as Fort Collins, I've heard that the DDA and the city, they butt heads a lot, and they're, for instance, their micro-mobility program is a contentious issue. But I truly believe that working with the city, and we can be aligned with those same goals, and we may have different perspectives on how to get it done, but we have to work together. And similarly with the downtown stakeholders, we all have to work together. We're a small community, and we can't get a lot done if we're constantly pulling at each other.
Thank you.
Any further questions for our DDA administrator? I think Councilman Moody had his light on first, and then I'll go to Councilman Laybourne.
All right.
Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. Just for informational, what are, just top of your head, 3 stakeholders that you did meet with one-on-one?
President, through you to Councilman Moody, I have met with Corey Lawfrey with the Paris West, thank you, with Paris West, Rob Dickerson with RLR, Sam Galliotis at one point with the Met, and Glenn Garrett as well. And there's a couple others that I have also met with.
Follow up, Mr. President.
Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. I know you said one of the 3 ways is to go on your own, be in City Hall. Have you looked at any properties outside? Like I know Deluxe Cleaners is available. Have you guys looked into purchasing that building?
Administrator.
President, through you to Councilman Moody. We have not at this time looked into that. We are aware it is for sale and have been advised by one of the downtown stakeholders to look into purchasing that property. As I've said, it's not been the highest priority at this time. However, depending on how this discussion goes, we will see if it is a priority or not. At this time, my understanding is the current owner who's wanting to sell would like to sell it as a business, not just a property. So they're hoping that it will continue as a dry cleaner.
If I can add to that, that's my understanding as well. I think the business owner looks at that as a business he's built up, and he would like it to see it continue as such.
Thank you.
Councilman Laybourne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for the promotion, but I'd rather be president.
Well, just sitting here at...
That's okay, Mr.
Yeah.
President. He made me Escabel at the committee, or at the Finance Committee.
I am imperfect, and I admit it.
Councilman Laybourne, your question, please.
Thank you. So, in looking over this memorandum of understanding and looking back through the years, I have probably the most experience here of anyone on the council and in the downtown. I was on the DDA board when the blow-up occurred with Visit Cheyenne, and it was determined that some sort of rescue effort had to be made to bring it over to the city. And in the 3 years that have occurred since then, I've been involved in attending meetings and paying attention to all this because it not only concerns me personally, but it very much concerns me as a council person that represents that ward. And in your recent comment here, I have to wonder why you would use the term stabilize. Has not the past 3 years that this agency has been in the city stabilized it? What's unstable?
Administrator?
President, through you to Councilman Laybourne, it has been in the process of stabilization, I would say. In the past 2 years that it's, or 2.5 years it's been with the city, there has been turnover for my position. There have been 2 administrators prior to myself. There was the DDA had a qualified audit prior to coming under the city, and now it has a clean audit 2 years in a row. Their plan of development you all adopted in this February 2025. That has been the main focus of the DDA. That was before my time. And so I believe, from my understanding, it has been in the process of stabilizing. And now that the plan of development is in place, I am in place as well. I intend on making it as stable as it possibly could be before we're kicked out of the nest, if possible.
Councilman Laybourne.
An interesting analogy of kicked out of the nest, but in any case, this is certainly an important element of our community, and one that I don't see any of the folks who have lately been very involved in the DDA and downtown here to talk to us about it. And that concerns me very much. I think what you are mentioning here is really not the kind of adequate outreach, because in case anyone doesn't know, there are a significant number of downtown property owners that pay the mill levy that are now organizing their own organization to promote their businesses in downtown. And that's a serious thing. That certainly I've seen close up at DDA board meetings, at meetings with those individuals, and certainly there's no question that downtown redevelopment is a challenging element no matter where it is. But I will say this, being familiar with DDAs around the state, they don't have that kind of instability because they have long-term leadership. They have buy-in from the people that pay the mill levy or are involved in that downtown business, and that truly is not the case today. And I believe, and I hope that everyone here understands, because I've certainly had those conversations with all the other council people, I believe in the DDA. I believe that it is a mechanism created for a very specific purpose to revitalize an area. And I believe that when we look at the changes in the programs of the city in the immediate future that occur in the downtown development district, there are mighty challenges. 15th Street, the corridor. And so it's my opinion that what we have to do here is go from planning to doing. And I can tell you that I found it to be difficult at best to work through the programs that I am involved in, directly involved in terms of public safety of our infrastructure downtown. I've amended the ordinance with the assistance of other council people and the approval of the mayor. And we have developed a funding mechanism to really help those property owners with their problem concrete and sidewalk. And yet, we finished that effort with a demonstration project last October at Mort's Bagels. And as of today, that's it. Although we have voluminous records of those problems. And why that is, I'd like to know, because although you are new to the staff, there's another staff person that was there all winter and certainly had the opportunity to develop a program if that was the intent of the board and the city, because, and of course we have this discussion on a regular basis. Although the 74 blocks of the district are probably not as small as some downtowns in Wyoming, they are not that gigantic either. And we know where the problems are. They've been identified. And yet, we can't seem to move on it. We couldn't even do the first 3 projects that we developed this plan for. So it's very concerning not only to me, but to others who want to see code enforcement and infrastructure developed. So in that regard, Ms. Mays, would it be possible for me to sit down with you and Director Bloom and go through this memorandum of understanding and review the past efforts of this organization, as well as the outreach to really look at this memorandum of understanding, because I don't understand it. I don't understand how this agency could be in the city for 3 years and have the kind of track record over those 3 years, which was turnover, when we know that the true success of those DDAs is a continuation of leadership. So would it be possible before our meeting Monday to give this final approval for me to sit down and go over these matters in detail so that I could be more clear? I appreciate the time you're spending here, but this is quite a story, and a story that I'm very involved in as a board member, as a city councilman acting on behalf of the DDA when the DDA couldn't do it themselves. Serious questions at a period of time when I see a lot of good things either happening or possibly happening in a time of difficult uncertainty, certainly. But so would it be possible for me to sit down and visit with you and Chairman or Director Bloom? There, I did it again. I gave him the wrong title. But would that be possible?
President Rennie, through you to Councilman Laybourne, I believe that would be possible. If you'd like to meet before Monday, that it might have to be a pretty tight meeting, maybe an hour. We have our board meeting rescheduled on Thursday because we would be closed on Juneteenth, our originally scheduled board meeting. So our new board meeting, our rescheduled board meeting, will be the Thursday, the 12th. I will also be asking for postponement of this line item or of this agenda item at council on Monday for the DDA board to review before final approval. So if that also helps with the timing of meeting with myself and Director Bloom.
Certainly does. I think that that's certainly a postponement that I'd be in favor of, so we could reach a better understanding of this, because it really is quite challenging. I don't know that how many members here tonight or in the city staff have followed the DDA over 30 years and more than, well, I guess there's one for sure. Maybe we could visit and we could, I'd love to have some of your ideas about it. Do you think we could get together and visit about that?
Perhaps we can talk after. We don't need to belabor the meeting over our schedules.
Well, I'm not, excuse me, may I continue?
Yes, you may.
I think that's the point. I'm not trying to belabor anything. I'm trying to get to the bottom of why this agency is not as effective as it could be. I'm trying to get to the bottom of how we can best support the DDA as a city, and certainly one of the ways that is on the table right now is city staff employment, which didn't happen in the past, and I believe contributed to that turnover. But we can sit up here, but if we don't have the buy-in, it's not going to work. And the buy-in is not here tonight. I don't see anyone from the downtown merchants or employees here. I see that Ms. Volk is. She's on the board. I'm familiar with that. No, I'm talking about the independent people that are trying their best downtown to run a business, make a profit, and support our community. And I don't see them here. And I wonder why they're not here. All voices are important, including mine. And I'd be glad to go with anyone over the history that I have with this organization and some of the things that have happened over those 3 years, because they are significant. So I have one final question, Mr. President. So I believe that we're now, I see on the DDA's website that we're talking about a marketing campaign of up to $60,000 for the purpose, evidently, of marketing and promoting downtown Cheyenne. Is that correct?
Administrator?
President, through you to Councilman Laybourne, are you referring to the communications plan RFP or what the other marketing sponsorship that was presented to the board on the 15th?
Could you repeat that?
We have a communications plan RFP on the website currently, but there was also a request for a marketing co-op sponsorship at the last month's board meeting, which would be promoting downtown businesses. I'm wondering what you're referring to.
I'm referring to the communication plan and the RFP that is currently out with the figure noted of $60,000, as well as the discussion that I heard at the last board meeting in this very room where that figure was bumped up, and I really question why it was bumped up. I mean, so let's look at these facts. Let's look at who promotes downtown Cheyenne now. Are we finding that Visit Cheyenne is inadequate in their efforts? Oh, they're pretty serious efforts. I think that you have the merchants and the property owners themselves, as was just pointed out, asking for help and developing their own plan. And now we're going to lay on top of that this communication plan and marketing plan. And frankly, having been through these time after time after time, Mr. President, I don't believe that is appropriate. And I do believe that, and I spoke in favor of the plan of development, but I'll close with this. It is absolutely time. I look forward to this postponement discussion, but it is absolutely time that we move on from planning to doing. And by the doing, I mean serious effort at our infrastructure downtown for public health and safety and follow through on projects that individuals work very closely on, as I did on the sidewalk improvement effort. So I look forward to visiting with you about that, but I hope I've made myself clear. The people that are most directly affected and pay the bill aren't here tonight. And I think it's only legitimate to ask why they aren't, because they are darn interested, just as I am. Thank you.
Mr.
Counsel?
President, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, Administrator.
I would like to follow up the communication, Mr. President, through you to Councilman Laybourne. The communications plan, the RFP for that is for us to be better communicators with the downtown stakeholders. Part of that is promoting downtown as a district to recruit businesses, investors, and developers, but the majority of that is creating a website that's easy to use and access for our stakeholders, is to understand the best way to reach our stakeholders through social media and other campaigns, and just kind of get really aligned on what our messaging is to our stakeholders. That's it.
Councilwoman Aldrich, the others, I'm going to recognize some of the others, and before I come back to you, since you've already spoken. Councilman White.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. Sophia, I just want to thank you for the last 3 months. I know that it's been a whirlwind in many different ways. I'm also looking forward to the movie night tomorrow night. I hope the weather cooperates. I've been in favor, just personally, I've been in favor of kind of what's in the MOU in keeping the DDA within the city for the upcoming year. Just because you are so new, and I think that it's important that we give you all the support that you can have and obtain through city resources, with the expectation that after that 1 year that DDA does become more independent. But I'd be in favor of the postponement as well, and would certainly like to, if my schedule allows, I'd like to participate in any discussions about the MOU as well.
Okay, and Councilman, if I believe we're still on the staff report and questions, so. Councilman Roybal.
Through you, Mr. President. I'm currently on the board of the DDA, currently actually president. And in meeting with the, I think I can speak for the board when I say that we would like for that the DDA to stay within the city for 1 more year at least. Reason being is, again, we've got some new processes we want to implement. We want to streamline some things. And I think that by taking them out of the city or out of the building, we put them in a place where they're not stable enough to make sure they mainstream everything. So in a year, we'll have this discussion again, and we can move to another place in the city, or we can rent a place like I have been. In Sophia's, boosting Sophia, I guess, we had a board training. She actually took us over to across the street. We sat in a boardroom, and she told us what the DDA does, what the DDA doesn't. And it's the first time in most of everybody that has been there for a while has ever had the training, or has ever had the, this is our direction, this is the point of the sword, this is where we need to go. So it would behoove us to stay in the city for a year, just so we can get the sword in the right direction. And then once we get out, we already have all of our processes and all of our applications and that type of thing to move forward as a board and not end up mired in the mud again. So I would support this.
Any further questions for staff? Councilwoman Aldrich.
President Rennie, one of the things that I have asked for repeatedly since DDA came to the city, every single time an MOU has come before us or a budget has come before us, is we have been asking for the qualified audit since this entity came into the city. We have yet to receive that as a council. Not okay. We need a copy of the qualified audit to figure out what actually was the issue, because I'm not sure that we ever understood that completely. So I would, if you could provide that for us, I would appreciate it.
Okay, can we keep our discussion to the MOU at this point? Councilman Laybourne.
I think I've said enough.
Okay. Any further questions for staff? No further questions. Thank you, Administrator. Public comment?
Mr. President, members of the council, Wendy Volk, Vice Chairman of the Downtown Development Authority, and also someone who pays into the mill levy for the Downtown Development Authority. I am very much in favor and very appreciative of the City of Cheyenne and our memorandum of understanding. This was an imperative decision that we all made to come together. We, at the recommendation of our former board member, Councilman Laybourne, we did pursue a plan of development. It was a very expensive proposition, but it took our staff and our board's focus on that plan of development, to take 30 plans, if you can imagine, and consolidate them into one document. That's phenomenal. We hired that resource. They gave us directions. If we were to become a standalone entity, that scope of that plan of development, we can't do. The mill levy raises approximately $485,000 for money for the DDA to give out as grants, not salaries, not rent, not tech support, not legal, not accounting, not bookkeeping, not audit. That is for grants that we give out to businesses. Novus Auto Glass is an example of someone who recently received one of our grants this past year. We also had the Bell Building. All the windows on the exterior facing windows were all replaced. The Atlas Theater is another example. Lexi Garrett's operation has also received one. The former Cheyenne Light Fuel and Power Building, which is now CrossFit, their exterior. There are numerous examples of what the DDA has done. So to address some of the questions of why would we do a $60,000 marketing effort? We need to tell our stakeholders internally within the city, as well as externally in our downtown, what can we do and what can we not do, as what Councilman Roybal mentioned, but also to talk about what is the vision that came out of that plan of development. We are not an authority, we're a downtown development authority, but we can't regulate sidewalks. We can't regulate snow removal. Those are city purposes. We all try to stay in our lanes. And so I think if we remember, the Downtown Development Authority is to help fight the blight and to help with economic development. So people want to stay and play and do business in our downtown development boundary. So I am totally in favor of this, but over the past 30 years that I've been back in Cheyenne, we've had a revolving door of staff and board. We want to continue the stabilization. It's not just something you do in 3 years. I mean, I've seen just in, if you think about who all we've had, Amy Surdam, Amber Ash, Dominic Bravo, 2 people right before we had Sophia. So kudos to Sophia, is we were able to recruit her and have her excited and delighted to carry the torch and get our board all together with the single focus. I know how hard that is within the council, but we must come together between council and the Downtown Development Authority Board and staff and then our stakeholders to take Cheyenne to the next level. If you remember, every year when budget is approached, whether the Downtown Development Authority is staying in this building or we're in another building, we still have to come before this council to ask for funds for operations. Right now, I think in the past year, it was $250,000 is what was a line item for our staff to be able to hire. We've also had years where we didn't get any funding from the city, and that really was a precarious time for our Downtown Development Authority. It's hard to move things forward if we're constantly changing this playing field, if we're constantly playing hot potato of who's at fault, who's not doing enough, why are we doing this, and coming and capitalizing and taking staff time. I, as a board member, want to protect our staff so that they can stay focused. If people want to make appointments, to have an appointment with a council member, I know you all look at your calendars to say, we'll make time to talk to a constituent. I think as a board member and as a community volunteer, I do the same thing. But we also have a job to do. And I can't, serving on 5 boards, be at the whim of every 15 minutes someone wanting to talk to me about an issue. I have to schedule time and be professional. And I think our staff, and kudos to Sophia and our staff, because it's one of the hardest jobs, I think, in the city and I've seen in the community, is our Downtown Development Authority staff. And I want to just raise, a huge shout out to what they have done. It's miraculous. I appreciate every single person that has taken a leadership role in the Downtown Development Authority, whether it's a board or as an executive director or director of First Impressions. It doesn't matter. But I just want to say thank you. I hope you will all see the value and the support. We must continue to collaborate. But I think our opportunity is to truly communicate what can the DDA do and how we can help our community. We can't market for a business. I can't help change someone's business, but I can change how our downtown is perceived and how we can continue to improve upon that. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Rennie.
Thank you for your comments. I think under public comment, I think Director Bloom has his hand raised.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director. I just wanted to note that earlier, Sophia and I had talked about a potential postponement for this MOU. The reason for that was in the event there were significant amendments that were made, that we would be able to have those be considered by the DDA board at their next regular meeting, which is happening next Thursday. It doesn't appear that significant amendments will be made, so there likely is not a need to have postponement, so they can consider what has been presented to you all at their next regular meeting without having any major changes. The reason a postponement may be best is because since this was referred to the council or committee of the whole, if it were postponed, you all would have to reconvene again for another meeting that presently isn't scheduled.
Well, it means if we postpone this, we're going to have another committee of the whole, since that's the committee it originally started with. Okay, we're still on public comment. So any further public comment?
I just want to check with Brian Bow and just make sure he's had his hand raised off and on. So Brian, you should be able to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Brian Bow, member of the Downtown Development Authority Board. And I just would also speak in favor of the MOU. I've been integrally involved in the interviewing of Sophia and the prior director in my short tenure on the board over the less than 2 years. And so I just think that the stabilization, yes, is coming. We have a guiding document now. We have a very capable administrator and a very engaged board. And so I would speak in favor of this, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bow. Any other public comment? Any other hands raised, Jennifer? No? Okay. So that concludes public comment. May I have a motion?
I would move to approve.
Second.
Discussion from the committee.
I would move
Councilwoman Aldridge.
President Rennie, I would move to amend on number 4AI, or little 1, I guess it's a 1. It reads right now that the Director of Planning and Development Department shall hire employees, including the DDA administrator, DDA staff, to implement the DDA's board's vision as set in adopted plans. I would like to amend this to read, the DDA board shall hire employees, including the DDA administrator, DDA staff, to implement the DDA board's vision as set in adopted plans.
Is there a second for the amendment?
Second.
Second by Roybal. Discussion, Councilwoman Aldridge.
Yes, President Rennie, through you. I do believe that this board has been working really hard to come together and to function. I think that there are many challenges still ahead, but, and I've had this conversation with Director Bloom, I think we need to get Director Bloom out of the mix, and that the DDA board really needs to be the one hiring their employees and their administrator, so that the board actually has ownership in this process, and that they are more preparing themselves to once again become independent of the city's assistance and resources.
Further discussion on the amendment? Discussion? I think at this point I have to go back out for public comment, don't I? Okay, any public comment on the amendment? Public comment? Okay. And hearing no public comment, no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The amendment is approved. Councilwoman, are you finished?
Yes, for tonight.
All right. Any further discussion on the MOU? Councilman Laybourne.
Mr. President, I feel I have to respond to some of the comments that were recently made under public comment. The idea that I was the initiator of the plan of development is a very interesting statement. I know that there's been great concern, my concern as well as many other people, with those numerous plans and what they conceive of. But I can tell you this, when we talk about staying in their lane, isn't that the purpose of the combined effort here in the city? And I'm not saying that certainly all of those things that are in that plan of development are not directly affected and done by the DDA. They're community efforts. They are planning efforts in a variety of ways. They are many people that really must work together at some point. So to say that snow management isn't a DDA issue, I think that's incorrect. And the attitude that I've certainly experienced over numerous years is that curb and gutter and sidewalk and public safety probably is a relatively minor issue that the DDA might participate in.
Mr. Laybourne, I've allowed you a little latitude, but we are discussing the MOU.
Well, could you explain that a little bit to me, Mr. President? Because the way I look at it, may I respond?
You asked me to explain. My explanation is the item on the agenda is the MOU. I would prefer your comments be either in favor or opposed to the MOU.
Mr. President, I'm very opposed to the MOU.
Thank you.
And I'd like to explain why, if I may. May I?
You may explain your opposition, yes.
Yes, I may. Well, that opposition stems from 3 years of service on the DDA board, frankly. Direct experience, direct effort on my part to assist the DDA when they fell down and couldn't manage to see to it that the mill levy election occurred. I believe that that was something that I did a couple years ago that was very much in favor of the DDA, because if that deadline hadn't been met, that election would not have been held, and you would have seen the result of that individual that was allegedly responsible. So I believe that, and certainly, as I mentioned earlier, my efforts with the sidewalk and the shared cost benefit, which is a DDA program, these are all things that happened over those 3 years. So they're very much legitimate for discussion here. We're not talking about starting new. We're talking about a continuation of a program that here in this meeting itself has been acknowledged to be unstable after 3 years. So no, I don't take credit for that plan of development, but I will repeat this. It is time to quit planning and start doing, and doing hand in hand with the property owners that I think are going to be quite interested in some of the statements that were made here tonight as to their outreach, because you will be seeing and hearing an independent effort to promote our downtown when it should be a joint effort. Thank you.
Further discussion on the MOU? Discussion? Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of the MOU as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No.
I see the hands of the noes. It'd be Laybourne and Moody. Okay, the recommendation for Monday night will be to approve the MOU with one amendment. That concludes our business. We are adjourned.